Welcome, class. This is Miss Slaymaker
and Miss Davenport.
And today we're going to start with warm-up 14. So go ahead and pause the video, and then in a moment we'll go over the warm-up.
Ready, set, go. Okay, so now that you've had time, the 5 minutes to complete your warm-up, we're going to go over warm-up 14. Okay, so for number 1, it says two sides of a triangle have measures of, let's see what is hiding behind here, have measures 4 centimeters and 7 centimeters. Find the range of the possible sides. Okay, so remember when we talked about this at the beginning of the week, okay, we have to add and subtract to find the range. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is find our maximum value. So we're going to add 4 plus 7. Okay, 4 plus 7 will give us an 11, so that would be our maximum value. And then we will take 4 and 7 and we will subtract. So we will do 7 minus 4, which will give us 3. So our x has to be somewhere in between 3 or 11.
And remember, we can also write it as, or if you write it as an inequality, as 3 with a less than sign x, and then another less than sign 11.
Right. In my class we did that as well, so you better remember that. Okay, for number 2, is it possible to have a triangle with sides measuring 3 centimeters, 7 centimeters, and 9 centimeters? Okay, well, let's see. We have to decide whether when we add 3 and 7, is it greater than 9? Okay, so 3 plus 7 is 10, and 10 is greater than 9. So yes, we can make a triangle. All right. Okay, so moving right along. Oh, there you go. You can check it. Okay, to our mini lesson for today. This is all day 1 stuff, so we're going to fast forward through all that. On to day 2. And here we go. Slaymaker, do you want to remind us of our vocabulary words from yesterday?
Of course. So on the screen it shows what diameter means. Diameter is all the way across the circle, the distance from each end point. Circumference, remember, is another word for perimeter, but it's a special word for circles. And then radius is half of the diameter.
Okay, so now that you've had now that we've reviewed our words, okay, go ahead and stop the video and press this play me right here, okay, and we're going to watch a video over circumference, and then we will be back to instruct you on the mini lesson.
Okay, so again, let's review our formulas that we're going to use today. C equals, or circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius. Or we could also use C, or circumference equals pi times the diameter, depending upon what is given to us in our situation. Sometimes, let's just remember that sometimes when we are given pi, they ask us to approximate. And when they're asking us to approximate, we're going to use 3. But if they ask us for just an estimation of pi, we'll always use our 3.14. So in most cases, we'll use 3.14 unless specified to approximate to 3.
Alright, so yesterday we learned how to solve for the circumference. Okay, so you were given the diameter, we multiplied by pi to find circumference. If you were given the radius, we multiplied by 2 to find circumference. Today we're going to kind of work backwards. Okay, we're going to be given the circumference and we're going to find the missing part, kind of like we did with angles. Okay, so we're finding the missing variable of our formula. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, we have been given that circumference equals 40.841 feet. Okay, so again, remember, our, what do we call these, Mrs. Slaymaker? Our units are very important. Okay, so we're going to carry that on into for the rest of Unit 4, so don't forget your units. Okay, so for this problem, Ms. Slaymaker, do you want to explain how we do this one?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to explain the problem as Ms. Davenport writes it on the board. So for the first example, is actually already viewed on the screen, so we see that the circumference is already given to us as 40.841 feet. So we're going to use our formula, C equals pi times the diameter, and then we're going to plug in what is already given to us. So we can see here that 40.841 goes and replaces C, equals pi times the diameter. Now we're solving for D here. We want to know what the distance, the diameter is. So we're going to have to get D by itself. In order to solve for D, the pi has to go. And so we're going to do the opposite inverse, which is dividing by pi on both sides. So you'll see that's here. And when you put it 40.841 divided by 3.14 in your calculator, so maybe do this with me as we do this together. So 40.481 divided by 3.14 equals, and this is what I got. Oh, hold on one second. Okay, so you can see that it is 12.892, and then it continues. So you can round this to the nearest whole number, like you can see on the screen already done. So it rounds up to 13, so it's approximately 13 feet for the diameter. Okay, so go ahead and stop the video and try for the second one, and then in just a minute we'll explain. Okay, so we're going to start where C is given. So circumference is 57.805, and our formula is listed as well. So 57.805 is going to equal pi times the diameter. And so let's go ahead and write in 3.14 or pi, whichever way you want to, for our equation. So the next step here is we're going to divide by pi to solve for D. Okay, we're going to divide by pi on both sides. So with our handy-dandy calculator, we're going to put 57.805, and we're going to divide by 3.14. Okay, and then in the calculator, I'm seeing 18.409, and then we're going to round that again to the nearest whole number just to kind of keep it the same. If it's not listed, we recommend to round to the nearest hundredths place, but since we're going to go with the same way we did the first question, we're going to go ahead and round this to 19 millimeters to equal the diameter. Okay, so let's move on. So here we can see that there's steps that you can view for the PowerPoint. It's step 1, plug in the variables. Step 2, divide both sides by pi to solve for D. And then step 3, round the answer to the nearest hundredth if not listed, or if not instructed to do so. So here are 2 more examples. So you can see here, this one we're trying to find the radius. So we will put in, we'll let Ms. Davenport have control. There we go. So we have circumference is 15.708 equals 2 times pi times the radius. You can solve for this one. This is a multi-step equation here. So the first step was we're going to divide by 3.14 on both sides. So 15.708, put that in your calculator, 15.708 divided by pi 3.14. That gives you, or gives me 5.00, and it keeps on going. And then I'm going to go ahead and divide what I have in my calculator by 2. And then, so since I have it in my calculator already, this is actually the exact answer for it. And you can see on the screen this is the approximate answer. So I see that it's 2.5012, and it continues. So we can approximate either to the nearest hundredths place, which would be 2.50, or to the tenth place, which would be 2.5, and we would stop there. Okay, so go ahead and stop the screen and try the second question. Okay, so for the second question, we're given circumference equals 33.929. We see that it's given we're trying to find our radius, so we're using 2 pi r, which equals circumference. So we need to divide both sides by pi first to begin to begin solving for r. So we have in our calculator 33.929 divided by pi, 3.14, and I get 10.805414. And then I'm going to do another step by dividing by 2, and I find that I get, hold on one second, I find that I get 5.402, and let's practice rounding this to the nearest hundredth place to be more precise. So I see 5.40. Okay, and that would be solved for r. Now, one way that you could do this a little differently and still get the same answer is instead of dividing by pi first on both of these examples, you actually could divide by 2 first and then divide by pi. As long as you divide by both of them at some point, then that is perfectly fine. Okay, and oops, make sure we get the right thing here. Okay, so we're going to continue with our work session now, and this is the part we're going to work on our plate. So remember from yesterday we talked about the diameter and the radius, so you can split your plate up that way. And then your work session, this is the back of the plate. So numbers 1, 2, and 3, go ahead and list that. And then here are your questions for today. So let's go over these answers.
Okay, so now that you've had time to work on your work session, we're going to go over these. Okay, so for number 1, it says the circumference of a car wheel is 28 pi inches. Find the diameter of the wheel. Now, you'll see that in this example, okay, we have 28 pi here. Okay, we're used to, the example problems before had pi multiplied out, okay, like in decimal form as in the example down here. Okay, but we wanted to go ahead and preview it as 28 pi for you because in 8th grade you will never see it multiplied out. They always leave it in the pi form, okay, like this. So, which actually makes your job dividing a little bit easier because as you can see when we set this up, we're going to use, since we're looking for diameter, we're going to use the C equals pi d formula. So we're going to substitute this entire value in for circumference. 28 pi equals pi d. Okay, so you'll notice when I divide by pi, which is our first step, they actually cancel on both sides, which leaves you with a diameter of 28. Okay, so 28 equals d, and the diameter of the wheel would be 28. Now, for number 2, the same kind of case is given. The tip of a minute hand travels 10 pi centimeters in 1 hour. So again, we're using that in 10 pi form. Okay, not the the multiplied out. So we're going to find the length of the minute hand. Okay, Ms. Slaymaker pointed out that the minute hand here, okay, we'll have to use the radius. Okay, because we're talking about the distance from the center of the clock to the numbers, the outside edge of the clock. Okay, so that we will use our radius formula. So we are going to use our C equals 2 pi r formula. Okay, we're going to plug this entire expression here, 10 pi, in for our C. 10 pi equals 2 pi r. Okay, then we'll divide by pi. That's our first step. They cancel again on both sides. We're left with 10 equals 2r. Okay, then we divide by 2, and 5 equals r. So the radius of our clock, the length of our middle hand, is 5 centimeters. Okay, for number 3, the circumference of a nickel is about 65.94. Okay, so here they've included the pi multiplied out into the answer. Okay, so these are, like our mini lesson problems, our guided practice that we did before your work session. Okay, so is 65.94 millimeters. What is the diameter? So since we're looking for the diameter, we're going to use the formula C equals pi d. Okay, we're going to plug 65.94 in for C equals pi d. We'll divide by pi. That's our first step. When we divide 65.94 in our calculators by 3.14, it actually gives us a whole number of 21. So 21 equals d. So 21 millimeters is the diameter of our nickel. Okay, finally number 4. The circumference of a cup is 31.4 inches. What is the radius? Okay, again, since it's asking for the radius, we know that we need to use our C equals 2 pi r formula. Okay, we're going to plug in 31.4 for our C, as we did here. Ms. Slaymaker did 31.4 equals 2 pi r. Okay, she then divided by pi on both sides because that's step number 1. It canceled here and left us with 10 equals 2r. Okay, last step we divide by 2, which gives us 5 equals r. So the radius, okay, of our cup, our coffee cup, is 5 inches. Okay, so that is circumference.
And